Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to dissect some assets from new game Clair Obscure Expedition 33. That's a weird name, but it's a great JRPG game. The characters are fantastic. They do have some things about Unreal Engine that we'll discuss here in a second. And I think this game is going to mean a lot for indie developers. Let's get started.
I know it seems absurd to offer oblivion as recompense, but...
Okay, here in Blender, I got what I think everybody has been talking about, Lune. I have not played the game that much. I'll play it during the weekend. So I just got her outside. It wasn't easy because of the file structure from the game. Now let's talk about the reason why she doesn't have eye textures. The characters in Clair Obscure, they are made of metahuman. They're not actually metahumans. They are, I think they're modified. If anybody from the development team is watching, because I know there's developers now that watch my videos, let me know how you actually achieve these. I know they're metahumans because I see it from the topology and the UVs. I don't know if you modified the metahumans or if you took the metahumans inside of character creator, because I've seen some character creator assets inside the game folders, but that's beside the point. What I mean is, as you can see here, just the face has this many materials. That's how complex metahumans usually are. And many of these materials are part just for the eye. So you see like the cartilage is part of the eye. The eyelashes, well, I actually have eyelashes in Blender. There's the lacrimal fluid, which simulates that kind of like watery part of your eye. Then there's the occlusion, which is kind of like a shadowy part. I've explained it in other videos. If you don't have occlusion, you feel that it's not there, but it's so subtle that you barely notice it. And then there's also the eye itself. So if we go into the eye, one of the issues is, aside from file structure, is that the shader for the eye of the metahumans usually made inside Unreal. So as you can see, just the shader for the eye without the other materials that I mentioned is very complex. So me just taking out these textures and putting them in Blender are not going to do the same because I need the actual shader. If you want me to talk more about the metahumans, let me know in the comment section down below, because that's kind of one of my areas of expertise, and we'll talk about all these shaders later. But this video is dedicated to dissect the video, and this guy is from a short that's on the channel. Let's get back to Blender. So we're going to start with her, and then we're going to move to one of Gustav's weapons, which I have here. All right, so let's switch from texture to our usual, and let's take a look at the geometry. Geometry here is very dense, although, again, I haven't played Clair Obscure that much, but from little that I've played, there are not that many characters on screen. And this is not an open world game also, so you have a little bit more of a budget there. This geometry being this dense, to me, looks more like the LOD 0. So when you have game characters, there are LODs. LODs means level of detail. Usually when you're far away from the character, it changes to a level of detail that is much lower than what you're seeing on screen. This is usually done for when the camera is on the character or you're doing something cinematic or something like that. That being said, when I was looking at the game files, I did not see the other LODs. I don't know if the LODs are embedded or they're in other parts that because there are too many folders. It was not, and this isn't on the developer. This is probably the way that it came out when I opened it, but it wasn't easy. So I'm guessing the other level of details are in there somewhere. This was just the one that I happened to get. So as you can see, this topology from the arm, because this is her arm outside, and the face is from the metahuman. So the topology is the same from the metahuman, even though the proportions are not from what you'd find in MetaHuman Creator. I really like the proportions that they use. These are very appealing characters. I love all of the characters here. They're very well done, and also very impressive topology when you looked at it. So let's just look at the face first. And if you've seen my previous video, I usually don't talk about like actual body parts because they all come from a base mesh. In this case, they come from a metahuman. So the topology tends to usually be the same, and it has exactly the same cut that all the metahumans have down here. So this is what led me to believe they're using that same mesh, and they probably took it into something like Character Creator, which is a program from Real Illusion that I'm not a fan of, but a lot of people are using. Or maybe they took this into Maya and just used the DNA to add a new character that they've already sculpted. I used to have a process of doing that in my old channel, but yeah, if you want to know how to do that, let me know and I'll make a tutorial on that. Now you can see here how the topology flows, and it flows really, really well. And usually the topology here, again, it's because of when I take out the triangles in Blender, it does weird stuff. But usually the topology here, it's pretty clean. These guys are amazing. And even if you keep subdividing them, if you, for instance, if you were to take this into a program like ZBrush for sculpting and you subdivide it, it will still retain form. These guys are pretty awesome to work with if you want to make your own characters and just use the metahumans as a base mesh, which I highly recommend. Now, the other thing that you see from here is in the eye area, the eyelashes are pretty much hair cards. So they're not using hair grooms yet in video games. In Unreal Engine, I use grooms. So if we get close to this guy, you can see the difference is these are not hair cards. These are actually like little splines. So that's what represents the hair on his face. And if I were to remove the helmet, you can see that he has his hair. And if we select the hair, you can see that it's its own system because it's grooms. It's not hair cards. But I guess games are not ready for grooms yet. Correct me if I'm wrong. If somebody has seen actual grooms in a game, let me know. But for the most part, I think games are using hair cards nowadays. So another thing about this way these characters are made that have to do with the metahumans is that the face is separated not only in mesh, because if you see, if I go here, you can see it's an open mesh. It's not only separated mesh-wise, it's also separated rig-wise. I don't have her rig right here, and if I open it in Blender, it's going to look awful, but her facial rig is usually separated from the rig of the body. So they have one rig for the body and they have one rig for the face, and both of those rig connect at the neck point. The rig for the face usually even have some of the shoulder bones. So you can see the movement like this, like what I'm doing here. And that's one of the things that's pretty awesome about these guys. Again, if you want me to go more in depth about the metahumans, just let me know in the comments down below. But other than that, topology is pretty good. Let's look at it texture, just so you can see it looks pretty good. This is just the diffuse. I don't have any normal maps or anything, but you can see how she looks. And usually the scalp has a little bit of coloring from the hair, because when you're doing hair cards, covering the whole scalp with hair cards to the point where you see absolutely a zero head, it can generate too many polygons. So you do it so you can create the volumes of the hair. Usually when they do hair cards, they do it in layers. So they do like the layers that are closer to the head, then they do like the big blocking out of her hair, and then they will do the little strands on top. But there is usually a little bit of space in between, so that's why they do this. You usually paint the color of the hair on parts of the scalp where you think it's going to be seen. And as you can see, the texture for the skin in this character is pretty good. It's very high resolution. You can see like the little details here in the pores and the freckles and everything around the nose and the lips. You can see the little indentations that everybody has in the lips. You can see this little wrinkling here that most people have under their chin. These are very high-end characters, and from what I saw, the game works really well, even though these characters are very high poly. So let's look at the face UVs, because again, this is all separated from the body. And we're gonna select the whole thing, and as you can see, there's a couple of things that are here. So let's just select the face, okay? Because usually, because you have a lot of materials, when you combine all those materials into one single mesh, sometimes the textures might be overlapping. So if I select all, you can see that there are parts here that shouldn't be there. It's probably from the eyes and the teeth. And speaking of teeth, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to go back really quickly to the geometry part. Because if we move on, you can see that this is something that I haven't shown yet with any of the other characters, is the mouth. Usually every character that you make that it's going to be talking, you should have a mouth back, or even something that's just opening and closing the jaw. There's usually a mouth back. And the reason for that is because when the character talks, you don't want to see the back face of the polygon, because the back face of the polygon is usually invisible. So that's one of the things that you see with metahumans here. You can see this kind of like the throat area. And over here, aside from the mouth back, let me see if we get into editing mode. This is the mouth back with the teeth. And if you were there when Assassin's Creed Unity launched, you probably saw a character that looked like this. I'm going to put a picture on screen so you can see. This is one of the things that you saw if from that era that Assassin's Creed had. Actually, it was just the teeth. It wasn't the mouth back. So you can see here the teeth with the gums, and the teeth are part of the same mesh as the gum. They're separated just from upper and lower jaw. This thing that you see right here is part of another material that's from the metahumans. That's a kind of like the saliva. It's the a little bit more wet-ish part that is part of their materials in game. So let me, oh, and here you can see the eyes. This looks crazy. I think this looks really funny. All right, sorry about that. Let's go back to UVs. So you can see the UV is beautifully laid out. It's just seamed here behind the head. It just has a seam that is right in the middle. It's cut down behind the head, and you can see where the seam is because you can see these triangles there with Blender couldn't detect where the loop was going. So they have the seam like right in the middle of the head up until a point. And when you are making these characters, the thing about making faces is you can rip the seam from here all the way up to, I think it's done all the way up to here, just because the hair is always there. So this seam line, it's not very visible for the most part. And this is something that you can take care of in Substance Painter, pretty much. So it's very easy to hide that seam. Other than that, this face, as all the metahumans, is beautifully unwrapped. And you can see how everything is squared out. Everything is squared out. Looking great. And on top of here, of course, this is not going to be squared because it's a head. But it looks pretty good. So as you can see, the eyes are closed here. So you can have some texture for the eyelids. It's very important. And you can see the texture with this tattoo around her face. You can see the lips. Everything is super dense. And this is why these characters look so awesome. And real quick, like her hair. And I think this isn't her hair. This is just a hair that I could find that fit her head. It's just hair cards, just like the eyelashes. It's just hair cards, but it's pretty cool. It's very complex and it's rigged, which, well, usually when I'm in Unreal, because I use grooms, I don't see rigs, but this one is rigged because when I took it out, it had bones. So there may be a lot of dedication to the hair animation part. All right, here we are for her coat. I had to remove her hair so we can see underneath around here. And you can see the geometry flows pretty nicely. The character is very dense. It's very dense because, you know, all the detail that she has to have. She's also very close to the camera for when you're doing combat. I'm going to try to guess, but I'm pretty sure they did this with Marvelous Designer, then take it to ZBrush to clean it up a bit, and then got it inside a program like Maya or Blender or something like that, just for the final touches and final topology. Sometimes Marvelous Designer give you very decent topology. Now that I've been using the program more, Marvelous Designer is a program where you can create all sorts of garments like shirts, coats, and it's just like you are designing the garment in real life where you have the pattern in 2D and then you simulate it on top of your character. It's very cool, and it has simplified the garment making of like clothing and all that. It's just amazing. So just like if you remember the video on Assassin's Creed, you know, there's parts where I think this is more like Blender when I remove the triangles, but I'm pretty sure the topology here is clean. All right, so you can see that this has, even though there's some polygons that I didn't graph, but it's pretty obvious that this has thickness. So it's not like part of some other geometries that we've seen on the channel where things are either like welded tight. Well, this is a welded like watertight geometry. I just didn't grab the polygons here, but this is a watertight mesh that is pretty much has some thickness to it. And you can see it's part of their budget. If it's in your budget, then go for it. Some people have commented that, why do you do it? It's so many polygons. Well, if it's in your budget and it will improve the quality of your character, then by all means you should do it. All right, so what we're gonna do is I want to see if there's a back face to this. So let's hide the coat. And there isn't. This is where this ends, because we only grabbed the coat. We're not grabbing this, and this ends in front. So you can see that is it. Not every piece of geometry is welded watertight. And this is covering the cut that is made on her face here. Again, the reason why she isn't watertight is because it's part of the metahuman workflow. This arm is just out of a metahuman. This is exactly how they have their nails, and that's why we're going to go into the glove, because one of the things that we talked about is usually when you're making gloves, and I mentioned this on a previous video, all you do is follow the topology of the hand. So this arm is bare, and this arm has a full glove that goes all the way, probably higher than this sleeve. But you can still see that the topology is the same. So this is the topology for the nails that we have right here. Look at it. It's exactly the same. It's just it's been smoothed out, probably in ZBrush. It's been smoothed out so you don't have the difference between the nail and the finger. But usually when you're making gloves, the topology tends to be the same as the hand. You can see the loops that go around right here to reinforce the knuckle when there's that deformation is exactly the same that you see right here. Right? And there's no reason why not to use the underneath topology, to be honest. There's a little bit of wrinkling here, which is part of what's telling you that there's a glove there. So it's not one of those super tight gloves. There is a little bit of give in the joints, which is good. And that's why you have this small difference, very, very small difference between this arm, which is totally smooth, and this arm, which has some wrinkles to it, just to simulate the gloves, but overall it's the same topology. Now what I want to do is let's select this whole thing and isolate it and see that it's not watertight. It's an open mesh. And some people have asked me, like, why is it watertight sometimes and why isn't sometimes? It depends on your engine. It depends on your pipeline. It depends on the person who is rigging your models. I haven't tested this yet, but I'm pretty sure if I grab this and put it in Unreal, I should be able to use the same metahuman control rig that this guy has. Because if you look the way that she is posed exactly the same way he is. So I'm guessing it's using the same control rig as well. And I may do some tests with these models in Unreal Engine to see how they perform with the Unreal Engine rig. So make sure you subscribe for that and ring the bell for a notification. Because sometimes I post stuff in the community tab. So if you want to be informed when I post those, make sure that you ring the bell for like all notifications. So you know when I also post in the community tab here on YouTube. If you don't want to go into X, which is the other platform that I post, you can follow me there. It's linked in the description. Now let's look at the feet, and I'm pretty sure the feet's gonna be the same thing as the arms. So yeah, not watertight. It's also pretty dense. But overall, the topology for this, you can see how clean the topology is for the belt. Just by looking at this thing right here, something as simple as this band, which is one face, perfect polygons all around the belts. Here in this like the saddle or the side pocket area, pretty good quads all around. Topology on this costume is very, very nice. All right, now let's go to the UVs of the body of this character. All right, so because this character was comprised of several different materials, what I did is I broke her down into the materials that she's made of, because otherwise the UVs, it's going to be crazy for you guys to see that. So let's start with the body. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to show you the body because the body texture has a body part that YouTube doesn't like, and the algorithm is not smart enough to differentiate that this is just a 2D texture and it's not actually a naked body. So unfortunately have to gonna cut this part out. Let's move on to the coat. All right, let's look at the pants. The pants, again, these are not as dense. But in here, they're not doing what we usually have been seeing in other models, where one leg is actually either on top of the other, or they're not in the 0 to 1 space, but mirror on this space right here. So if I were to grab this, it's going to grab the whole pants. But if I were to grab this and then this, you can see that it's just two different sides. So they're not overlapping. They're not saving texture real space with that, because they have several materials. This character has a lot of material, so sometimes there's no need for that. And as you can see, this is not symmetrical. So when your character, even though every character will have symmetry when it comes to their limbs, sometimes the design is not symmetrical and you are not able to do that little trick that I've shown you in the other videos, where you either overlap the UVs one on top of the other, or just put them outside of the 0-1 space. This is the 0-1 space. So we have this coat, which is pretty nice. We have all these parts are really broken down. So you can see it's broken down into several pieces. Like you got the frontal piece, the back piece. This is just to show you that UVs, it's not one and done. It's not like this is what you follow for UVs. There are a lot of ways of doing UVs. But the pattern that we've been seeing with all of the models that I've shown so far on the channel is that they're usually arranged very neatly. And they usually follow, like, for instance, you see that none of the pieces are like different sizes when it comes to their actual proportion. What do I mean by that? You see that this part right here is not a different size than the back. So we grab the back, you can see that it's this part right here, and they're both unwrapped around the same size. So that's also something that you need to take into account when you're making seams. You cannot make like the front bigger than the back, because otherwise when you see your character, which is put together, there's going to be a huge difference when it comes to the pixel size of the texture. So this is one thing that you need to take into account, is make sure that parts that are seamed together, they need to be the same size, even though they are like seamed apart, but on your character, they are part of one single piece, let's call it that. They cannot be like different sizes. All right, let's move to the weapon. All right, we have the weapon over here. I think you already saw it textured and lit. So if we take out the wireframe, you can see it textured, and it's just a diffuse map. I don't have this. This one has roughness, it has metallic, it has all sorts of stuff that again, it's part of the shader that it's made inside Unreal Engine. So I wasn't gonna fight it here in Blender. But just to show you the diffuse, and just with the diffuse, the geometrical detail that this has is it's so good that just with the diffuse, it looks good. All right, so if you remember from the video of the weapon that we have for Cyberpunk, you remember that when it comes to weapons, they don't deform, so you can get away with having triangles in different places. So you can see that because this is a little bit more of a high-end asset, it has chamfering along these edges. You can see that the chamfering along the edges is just so it captures the light. So if I get rid of the wireframe, you can see that just by having that little chamfer, instead of ending it squarely and just chamfering that edge and adding that extra polygon row, it's going to make you a more believable weapon. It's going to create that, you know, light rim that many things in real life have. And even if it's stylized, I would say I would always do the chamfer, even if I'm doing a stylized weapon, because that part where it captures the light, it just makes it look so much better. It's because it's part of a real world. Usually in the real world, there aren't that many things that are super sharp like that. Maybe, I don't know, like a knife or a razor. But, you know, other things, usually having this little chamfer, it really goes a long way and it helps a lot. And then we got the hilt, which is a little bit more organic, even though it's hard surface because it doesn't deform. But this part is a little bit more organic and looks pretty cool. All right, here we have it. And when it comes to weapons, just so you can see, highly recommend that you see the Cyberpunk video. It's going to be in the playlist link in the description, where we see how hard surface stuff is unwrapped compared to organics, where you see that you can just have your mesh divided into several more pieces than you would do with organics. Maybe missing some parts of this mesh now that I see it. Or they probably are reusing this texture for something else, because there are parts here that are not inside of this weapon. So this texture maybe have several purposes other than just being part of this blade. So if you remember from the intro, I mentioned that this game is game changing for indie developers. The reason for that, and if you follow me on X, you already know what I'm going to say, is I was digging into the files, trying to find a character for you guys. And one of the things that I saw is that they're using a lot of marketplace assets. They're using example assets, and this is outside from metahumans and megascans. The reason why I'm saying this, I say it as a good thing. It's a great thing that we see a game that is as successful as this one be comprised of several parts of the marketplace assets, because it's not an asset flip if you have marketplace assets. They're there for a reason. And because I don't want this video to be so long, I'm going to have a separate video where we're going to go over all the assets that they're using from the marketplace. And we're going to see how important and how amazing the fact that you have fantastic devs behind these games that were able to take those marketplace assets, modify them in a way that it's not easy for the public to tell, but it helped them a lot to have a small team of people building a game that is as amazing as this one. So if you want to know when that video goes out, make sure you subscribe and ring that bell for notification. Leave a like, leave a comment. It goes a long way, really helps out the channel. Channel has been growing a lot lately, and I thank you all for your support. I really appreciate it. Always let me know what kind of stuff you like to see, what kind of games you like to see. I'm building a list of games that people want to see that I kind of have on a queue that I can build right after these that just came out. So let me know what you want to see. Again, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, and see you in the next one.